So my name is Ria Waller, and I teach at Fresno City College, and I teach in the same semester two different courses in programming, coding. There's various words that we use for the idea of writing code that the machine interprets and does something with it. So I teach JavaScript on the client side and Python because I don't say Python on the client side because the truth is Python's typically a little more of a could be server based, but there's so many ways that we use Python. There's not a clear distinction of server and client. It's, if you were to put it anywhere, it'd be on the server side. That's not what's important. The reason I'm creating this particular video is honestly because there are some students, and what happens typically, you're probably getting this video because I've reached out to you. I've seen you enrolled in the upcoming semester or in the current semester, depending on when you watch this. I'm recording this at the end of the spring 21 semester, 2021. And what I typically do, if one time allows through the summer or between the semesters, is I will look at my enrollments. And if you are enrolled in both my Python and my JavaScript class, I will reach out to you and I will just say to you, I do not recommend that you take these two particular coding classes at the same time. Now, I actually did a Google search just to see what would come up. And the answer is absolutely. Is it possible? Absolutely. Anything is possible. It's just not recommended. And especially, it's not recommended if this is your first coding class. And the reason for that is that you're just learning your first programming coding class or your first language is a bit of a challenge and a good challenge. And I try to make this a fun challenge for you. But trying to, and this is the thing, if you do take my classes, which I hope you do, is that you're trying to understand the way that particular language implements the various things in programming that we learn: variables, logic, right? Functions, so much more, objects, arrays. I mean, there's just some basic concepts, very fundamental things. And even though you learn it in both of those languages, trying to learn the way the two languages, in this case JavaScript and Python, implement those concepts or use what we call these paradigms of data structures can just create a challenge because you're really trying to think like JavaScript or you're trying to think like Python. And so, if at all possible, the reason I don't recommend it is I've seen students try it. And I've had students like, I can do this, even though I've made this recommendation to them. They're like, Rio, I got this. And I have, in the couple of years I've been teaching both at City College, I've only had one student in this current semester that they're going right now. We're at the end of it. Seem to successfully navigate taking both. Now, in this case, this student happened to come in with some programming experience. So it wasn't completely new to them. And even with having that experience, it was still, I would say, just a time management challenge. So let me say this, like, because of the way that I teach coding, you're going to have 3 times a semester that you're actually going to have to write code on your own, given a concept that you will choose, and come in and do a code review with me, to where we sit and talk about your code. And part of the way you're graded on is on how well you can converse and understand what your code is doing. And so when you have to, and so because my 2 classes run together as far as the schedules, those happen on the same week. And so you're having to do both during that week, which creates both another challenge because you have to get your code, figure out what your concept you're going to code based on the requirements, and the requirements are going to be based on the concepts that we've covered. And then you'll have, again, in a very close time frame, to your code review, meaning your project code, your coding project due, and then coming in for review for 2 different languages. And that's part of the challenge, is because those courses, in addition to everything that I've said so far about that it's a challenge to take 2 at the same time, based on the way I teach them, it creates an additional challenge. Now, I don't do that on purpose. It's just the way the schedule works. And because I do 3 of them, if I tried to stagger them, it would just create it just wouldn't work in my mind, and maybe I just haven't worked hard enough to figure that out. But as of right now, that's the way my classes run. So if you want to talk more about this, please do. I'm still open to a conversation. I just want you to know I don't understand your specific requirements for doing it. There must be a reason. I'm sure you didn't do it just without having any thought, but I wanted you to know my reasons for why I don't recommend taking from me JavaScript CIT 93 and Python CIT 95 at Fresno City College. By the way, both are online as well, which can create some challenges for students as well. So, hope you understood that. Thanks for listening. Do your own research. Reach out to me if you want to talk about it more.